I killed those men, robbed them as cold as ice, and I'd do it again too. These chilling words were spoken by none other than Aileen Wuornos, a notorious female serial killer. Born into a world of hardship, she spiraled down a path of crime, ultimately resulting in a deadly killing spree. Today, we delve into the life and deeds of this infamous figure, exploring the dark corners of her existence. Dive into the life and crimes of Aileen Wuornos, a woman whose name has become synonymous with cold-blooded murder. Born on February 29, 1956, Aileen Wuornos entered a world that was anything but kind. In the cold clutches of Michigan, Aileen's journey began, a journey marred by hardship and sorrow. Her parents, too ensnared in their own troubles, abandoned her at an early age. The responsibility fell on her grandmother's frail shoulders, a woman who, despite her best efforts, could not shield Aileen from the harsh realities of life. Aileen's world came crashing down when her grandmother, her only beacon of hope, passed away, leaving her alone in the world. With no home, no family, and no one to turn to, Aileen found herself on the unforgiving streets, a child lost in a world that showed her no kindness. It was a cruel existence, one that began to shape her into the person she would later become. Aileen's life was a series of unfortunate events that led her down a dark path. Life on the streets hardened Aileen, and soon she found herself drawn into a life of crime. As the years passed, Aileen Wuornos' struggle for survival pushed her further and further into the underbelly of society. Petty theft and fraud became part of her daily routine, a means to get by in the harsh realities of the street. But it wasn't just the crime that defined Aileen's life. It was also the people she met along the way. One such person was Tyria Moore, a hotel maid who would become Aileen's lover and eventually her accomplice. Their tumultuous relationship was marked by bouts of passion and conflict, a chaotic love story unfolding against the backdrop of Aileen's escalating criminal activities. And then came the point of no return, Aileen's first murder. A middle-aged electronics store owner became her initial victim. It was a brutal act, one that crossed a line Aileen could never step back from. She claimed it was self-defense, a desperate act by a woman pushed to her limits. But the nature of the murder suggested something more sinister at play. Aileen's life of crime was just beginning, and her violent tendencies were about to escalate. This descent into darkness was far from over, and the world would soon come to know the name Aileen Wuornos for all the wrong reasons. The year 1989 marked the beginning of Aileen's murderous rampage. Over the course of a year, she would claim the lives of 7 men along the highways of Florida. Aileen's victims, all middle-aged or older, were often lured under the guise of needing assistance or offering services. Her first victim, Richard Mallory, was a convicted rapist. Aileen claimed self-defense, stating that he had assaulted her when she agreed to his proposition. His body was found riddled with bullets, a chilling testament to the violence that had occurred. David Spears, a construction worker, was her second victim. Found in June 1990, he too had been shot multiple times. Not long after, the body of Charles Carskadden, a rodeo worker, was discovered. The pattern was clear, and fear began to grip the state. Peter Seams, a retired merchant seaman, was next. His car was found abandoned, but his body was never recovered. Troy Burris, a sausage salesman, was found in a wooded area, the evidence pointing to the same killer. Aileen's sixth victim was Charles Dick Humphreys, a retired U.S. Air Force major, police chief, and state child abuse investigator. His body was discovered in September 1990. The final victim, Walter Geno Antonio, a trucker, was found in November 1990. The law was closing in. Aileen's careless abandon, her brazenness, had left a trail. Her and her lover Tyria Moore were recognized at a biker bar from a sketch released by the police. Tyria, fearing for her own freedom, cooperated with police, coaxing a confession from Aileen in a phone call. Aileen Wuornos was arrested on January 9, 1991. The woman who had once been a frightened child who had turned to crime for survival had become a ruthless killer. The justice system would now decide her fate. But one thing was certain. Aileen Wuornos, the woman who had once been a frightened child, had become a ruthless killer. Caught in a web of her own lies and deceit, Aileen Wuornos faced the ultimate punishment. As the gavel fell, sealing her fate, Aileen Wuornos stood in the courtroom, a figure of controversy and dread. Her trial was as erratic and tumultuous as the life she had led. She shocked the jury with her outbursts, her anger, her defiance. The court saw no remorse, only a woman spiraling down the rabbit hole of her own madness. The charges were damning. 7 counts of first-degree murder. The evidence was irrefutable, her own confession the final nail in the coffin. The jury had no choice but to convict. The judge had no choice but to sentence. And so it was that Aileen Wuornos was sentenced to death. To pay for her crimes not with years behind bars, but with her life. The verdict was met with a chilling silence. A life as troubled and violent as it had been was to be extinguished. Aileen Wuornos, the first woman classified as a serial killer in America, was to be no more. The impact of her crimes rippled outwards, touching the lives of many. The families of her victims, forever scarred. The public, captivated and horrified in equal measure. The world of true crime forever changed. Aileen Wuornos was not just a killer. She was a symbol, a chilling reminder of the depths humanity can descend to when pushed to its limits. Her legacy is a complex one. To some, she is a monster, a woman who took lives without remorse. To others, she is a victim, a product of a society that failed her at every turn. But to all, she is a figure of fascination, a dark star in the firmament of true crime. Aileen Wuornos, a name that will forever echo in the annals of true crime, a chilling reminder of the depths humanity can descend to.